World War II. World War II remains the largest and deadliest conflict in human history. Though officially spanning from 1939 to 1945, earlier conflicts in Asia are also considered part of its origins. The war saw two major alliances, the Allies and the Axis powers, with over 100 million military personnel from 30 countries involved. It became a total war, utilizing every economic, industrial, and technological resource. The war's atrocities included civilian massacres, the Holocaust, and the only use of nuclear weapons in warfare. These events led to an estimated 50 to 85 million deaths, marking it as the most devastating conflict ever recorded. The conflict began with Japan's invasion of China in 1937, followed by Germany's attack on Poland in 1939, prompting Britain and France to declare war. Germany, allied with Italy, quickly dominated much of Europe, while Japan expanded aggressively in the Pacific. In 1941, Germany invaded the Soviet Union, creating the largest front in the war. Later that year, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, bringing the US into the conflict alongside the Allies. By 1945, the war ended with the unconditional surrender of Germany and Japan. The war introduced new destructive technologies, particularly nuclear weapons. Its aftermath saw Europe divided into Western and Soviet blocs, leading to the Cold War. NATO was formed, and many European borders were redrawn. World War II reshaped global geopolitics and left a profound impact on human history. Causes of World War II. The causes of World War II remain a topic of significant debate, though a widely accepted perspective attributes it to the consequences of World War I and the Treaty of Versailles, which left Germany and Japan seeking revenge and expansion. This explanation also shaped post-war policies like appeasement and reconciliation, led primarily by the United States and France. After World War I, Germany lost its resources, prestige, and power. Its imperialist ambitions were driven by the desire to reclaim lost economic, military, and territorial assets and re-emerge as a global power. Controlling resource-rich lands like Poland and Ukraine was a key goal. Additionally, Germany aimed to overturn the Treaty of Versailles, which it viewed as deeply unjust. Adolf Hitler and his Nazi Party capitalized on these sentiments, promoting the idea of a national revolution to rebuild Germany. A critical factor behind the war was the perceived bias in the Treaty of Versailles. Germany believed the treaty unfairly favored the Allied powers, fostering resentment and a desire for retribution. This simmering discontent ultimately played a significant role in the outbreak of World War II. The outbreak of war. Poland Campaign. World War II began with Nazi Germany's invasion of Poland. To neutralize the Soviet Union, Germany signed a non-aggression pact, while Britain and France entered defense agreements with Poland. The invasion started on September 1, 1939. On September 3, Britain and France declared war on Germany, marking the official start of World War II. Germany's blitzkrieg strategy quickly overwhelmed Poland. French and British forces failed to assist, an act seen as a betrayal by Poland. On September 17, the Soviet Union joined the invasion as per a secret agreement. Polish leaders fled the country the following day. Warsaw fell on September 27, and the last Polish resistance ended at the Koch Fortress on October 6. Soviet-Finnish Winter War. During World War II, the Soviet Union launched the Winter War by attacking Finland on November 30, 1939. Despite being outnumbered, Finland's determination to defend its homeland was strong. Stalin sought a swift victory but faced resistance on all fronts. On December 14th, the Soviet Union was expelled from the League of Nations. On February 2, 1940, the Soviets intensified their assault with coordinated attacks using aircraft, tanks, and sled-mounted troops. After 15 days, they breached Finland's defences, sealing the war's outcome. On March 6, Finland sought peace, retaining its sovereignty but ceding key territories near Leningrad to the Soviets as per earlier demands. The war caused heavy losses, with 70,000 Finnish soldiers killed out of 200,000. While Stalin's forces gained valuable military lessons, the conflict led Hitler to underestimate Soviet strength, influencing Germany's later invasion of the USSR, Norway and Denmark. In April 1940, Germany launched Operation Weserüber, targeting Norway and Denmark to secure vital shipping routes and protect access to Swedish iron ore. Denmark, unable to resist, surrendered on the first day of the invasion, April 9th. Norway, however, put up resistance, aided by British and French forces. Despite initial successes, the Allies were forced to retreat due to German air superiority and the deteriorating situation in France. By June 10th, Norway surrendered, marking Germany's full control over both countries. The swift victories in Norway and Denmark solidified Germany's strategic position in Northern Europe, but also demonstrated the growing importance of air power and rapid military operations in modern warfare. France, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. In May 1940, Germany launched its Western Offensive, targeting France and the Low Countries Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. This operation, known as the Blitzkrieg, utilized rapid, coordinated attacks by tanks, infantry, and air support to overwhelm enemy defences. On May 10th, Germany invaded Luxembourg, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Luxembourg fell on the first day, while the Netherlands surrendered on May 15th after intense bombings, including the devastating attack on Rotterdam. Belgium held out longer but capitulated on May 28th. Meanwhile, German forces bypassed France's heavily fortified Maginot Line by advancing through the Ardennes, a region considered impassable for tanks. This unexpected maneuver encircled the Allied forces in Belgium. By late May, the British Expeditionary Force and many French troops were forced to evacuate from Dunkirk. On June 14th, German troops entered Paris, and on June 22nd, France signed an armistice. The country was divided into German-occupied territory in the north and the Vichy regime in the south.
This swift campaign demonstrated the effectiveness of Germany's Blitzkrieg strategy and marked a critical turning point in the early stages of the war. The Balkans. In 1940 to 1941, Germany expanded its influence in the Balkans, primarily to secure resources, strategic positions, and allies for its war effort. Italy, Germany's Axis ally, initiated an invasion of Greece in October 1940. However, the poorly executed campaign faltered as Greek forces pushed back into Albania. To salvage the situation, Germany intervened in April 1941. German forces, supported by Bulgaria and Hungary, swiftly invaded Yugoslavia after a coup overthrew its pro-Axis government. Within days, Yugoslavia was overrun and divided among the Axis powers. Following the Yugoslav campaign, Germany turned its focus to Greece. By the end of April 1941, Athens fell, and Greek forces were overwhelmed. However, the invasion delayed Germany's planned attack on the Soviet Union and forced the diversion of resources. The Balkans campaign demonstrated Germany's military dominance but came at a strategic cost, as it delayed Operation Barbarossa. The invasion of the Soviet Union and extended Axis supply lines in southeastern Europe. North Africa and Mediterranean campaigns. The North African and Mediterranean campaigns were pivotal theaters during World War II, with control over key territories and supply routes at stake. In 1940, Italy invaded British-controlled Egypt from its colony in Libya, aiming to expand its empire. However, the British counterattacked, forcing Italian forces into retreat and capturing large portions of Libya by early 1941. To assist Italy, Germany deployed the Afrika Korps under General Erwin Rommel. Known as the Desert Fox, Rommel launched a series of offensives, regaining lost ground and pushing into Egypt. The Mediterranean region saw significant naval and aerial conflicts. Malta, a strategically important British-held island, endured relentless Axis bombing but remained a critical base for Allied operations. In 1942, the tide began to turn in North Africa. The British Eighth Army, under General Bernard Montgomery, decisively defeated Axis forces at the Second Battle of El Alamein. Simultaneously, Allied forces landed in French North Africa Operation Torch, effectively trapping Axis troops between advancing Allied forces from the east and west. By May 1943, Axis forces in North Africa surrendered, ending the campaign. The North African and Mediterranean campaigns played a crucial role in diverting Axis resources, paving the way for the Allied invasion of Italy in 1943. Axis powers' invasion of the Soviet Union. On June 22, 1941, Nazi Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, a massive invasion of the Soviet Union, marking a turning point in World War II. Despite having signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with the Soviet Union in 1939, which promised non-aggression, Hitler's ultimate goal was to conquer Soviet territory, particularly the resource-rich regions of Ukraine and the oil fields in the Caucasus. The German forces, numbering over 3 million soldiers, advanced rapidly across a vast front, initially achieving significant successes and capturing large areas of Soviet land. However, the Soviets, under the leadership of Joseph Stalin, managed to rally their forces and mount fierce resistance. The German strategy of a quick, decisive victory faltered as harsh winter conditions, logistical challenges, and the resilience of Soviet troops stalled the Axis advance. The turning point came in December 1941 when the Germans attempted to capture Moscow but were repelled by Soviet counterattacks. The Battle of Stalingrad 1942–1943 further weakened the German position, as Soviet forces encircled and destroyed the German Sixth Army. This marked the beginning of a Soviet offensive that would eventually push German forces back and lead to their defeat on the Eastern Front. The invasion of the Soviet Union ultimately became a costly and decisive campaign, leading to the loss of vast numbers of German soldiers and material, while strengthening Soviet resolve and contributing to the eventual downfall of Nazi Germany. Japan's defeat. Japan's defeat in World War II was a result of multiple factors, culminating in its surrender in 1945. Initially, Japan had achieved significant military success in the early years of the war, capturing large portions of China, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Islands. However, As the war progressed, Japan's strategic errors and the overwhelming power of the Allied forces began to take a toll. Key turning points leading to Japan's defeat included 1. Battle of Midway 1942. This decisive naval battle marked the turning of the tide in the Pacific War. The United States, through intelligence and strategic planning, destroyed 4 Japanese aircraft carriers, crippling Japan's naval power. 2. Island hopping campaign. The Allied forces adopted a strategy of island hopping, bypassing heavily fortified Japanese islands and targeting strategic ones, eventually getting closer to Japan's home islands. 3. Bombing campaigns. The United States launched devastating air raids on Japanese cities, most notably the firebombing of Tokyo in 1945, which killed tens of thousands of civilians and caused widespread destruction. 4. Atomic bombs. In August 1945, the U.S. dropped 2 atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The bombings caused massive casualties and demonstrated the overwhelming destructive power of nuclear weapons, pushing Japan toward surrender. 5. Soviet declaration of war. In August 1945, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan and quickly invaded Japanese-occupied Manchuria, further weakening Japan's position. On August 15, 1945, Japan announced its unconditional surrender, marking the end of the war in the Pacific. The official signing of the surrender took place on September 2, 1945, aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay. The defeat led to the occupation of Japan by Allied forces, the dissolution of its military, and major political and social reforms. Germany's defeat. Germany's defeat in World War II was a result of strategic errors, resource shortages, and the overwhelming military pressure exerted by the Allied forces. After achieving early victories in the war, Germany eventually found itself on the defensive by 1943, facing a multi-front war that drained its resources and manpower. Key factors leading to Germany's defeat. 1. Operation Barbarossa 1941. Germany's invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941 was a critical turning point, although initially successful. The German army was stretched thin and unable to cope with the vastness of the Soviet Union. Harsh winters, logistical difficulties, and fierce Soviet resistance led to significant losses. 2. Battle of Stalingrad 1942–1943. The German defeat at Stalingrad marked the turning of the tide on the Eastern Front. The encirclement and destruction of the German Sixth Army dealt a devastating blow to Germany's military strength and morale. 3. Allied invasions. The Allies launched multiple successful invasions that took pressure off the Soviet Union and forced Germany to fight on multiple fronts. The D-Day invasion on June 6, 1944, opened up a Western front in Normandy, and the Allies pushed through France, eventually liberating much of Western Europe. 4. Bombing campaigns. The Allied bombing campaigns severely damaged Germany's industrial capacity. Cities like Berlin, Hamburg, and Dresden were bombed heavily, disrupting production and lowering civilian morale. 5. Resource shortages. By 1944–45, Germany faced severe shortages of oil, food, and other essential resources. The Allies' control of the seas and their strategic bombing of key supply lines crippled Germany's ability to sustain its war effort. 6. Soviet advances. The Soviet Union, after turning the tide at Stalingrad, launched a series of successful offensives in 1944 and 1945, pushing German forces back to Berlin. The Red Army's rapid advance in Eastern Europe was a decisive factor in the collapse of Nazi Germany. 7. Hitler's leadership. Adolf Hitler's increasingly erratic decisions and refusal to allow his commanders to make strategic withdrawals contributed to Germany's military setbacks. His direct interference in military matters often led to disastrous consequences. By early 1945, the Allies had closed in on Germany from both the east and west. On April 30, 1945, as Soviet forces encircled Berlin, Hitler committed suicide in his bunker. Germany officially surrendered on May 7, 1945, marking the end of the war in Europe. The unconditional surrender was signed on May 8, 1945, which is celebrated as victory in Europe that day.